Hello, Craig Yambor here with a review of Sesame. Sesame is a cloud-based classroom environment that is reminiscent of the prevalent online social media platforms such as Instagram and Facebook. Even in the free version that I will review with you today, the tool allows teachers to plan activities, perform assessments, and communicate with students and parents. Here you see a nice chart on the Sesame site breaking out the difference between the simple version, which is free, the super version, which has a monthly payment associated, and a school version, which is designed to be purchased by essentially a school or a district. If we move down into the detailed chart, you see they start out more or less the same with the core features being available. As you move down, though, of course, the paid versions add additional opportunities for adding classrooms, storage of classroom information for a longer time. And then the school version in particular really shines as you get into collaboration feature sets, coordination, and administration, as well as additional support. But as I said, I'll be reviewing the free option, so let's take a look at that now. And the free option is a nice tool just to start with for a single teacher. Here you see my profile information, and I am represented as the Dark Lord of the Sith. You'll understand that theme as we move forward. I've logged in using my Google account. You do not have to do that. You could create a Sesame account directly, but it is nice to use that common service account. You can see I have some snaps and classes, and down here you can see my classes, and only one at this point for this demo. Let's go into it. Here you see a thread type of chain going on, and I want to look first at the snaps, which is similar. Here you see some very simple communications. I put in a first snap just to say hello. I tried out sticking a link into one just to communicate out potentially to a class. Here's a nice picture that my daughter helped donate, and another quick communication reaching out to the class, just saying hi. So these are what they call uncategorized snaps, and you can change the view to all snaps, which shows a combination of the snaps that were created uncategorized and created for specific activities. So then many students have chimed in. And let's create a snap real quickly. So a simple tool here, throw in your comment. You can attach a file. You can link standards. I'll look at that more in the activities section, but you can also link them to snaps here. You could set it private, which I think would be relatively rare, but there might be instances where you want to hide this particular snap. And then you can select the students, either everyone or a subset of students, to receive this snap when they log into the tool. I've selected the 3, and I've posted it out here. And there you see my new snap. Those 3 students would also see it. Again, a communication channel, kind of the ongoing dialogue for the classroom. Let's move into the more structured area, the activities section. Again, it looks similar. You see snaps. Actually, you see the higher level activities, and then within it you can get a sense for the snaps that were captured against those activities. I have 2 activities showing here. A getting started one, which is kind of just a junk activity I created first, and there's not anything that's structured there, but that's the first activity. And then this activity I created a little bit more structured. It's related to a quiz on the driving forces of weather. You can see that I've assessed everyone on it. 1 was uncollected, which means 1 student didn't hand it in, got a 0 for it. You can see here there are 2 standards attached to this activity. So when I assessed it, these are the standards I was assessing against. Now I just put a couple in for demo purposes, but it's nice that you can hover over them and see exactly what the standards are. You see a row of the snaps that the students submitted against this activity. These are their handed in assignments. They could be other communications as well. In this case, I just stuck with some hand-ins. There's an opportunity to edit this activity, duplicate it. So if you want to make a similar activity and edit from there, You can share it. The share function just gives you a link, so you could hand that around via email or other avenue. And you can, of course, delete it. We'll go in and edit this one real quickly. Just looking at the features that are there, the title, date, a brief description. This can also be private or not. There are the standards that I linked up. You can add some standards. I'll go into that a little bit more later. You can put an attachment like the actual quiz sheet or image. And in this one I chose to use a criteria score. You can add multiple criteria scores, and there's an opportunity which we'll look at in a second for rubrics and checklists. So moving back out of that, let's create a new activity. So I'm going to do this real quick. We're going to do a test activity, and we'll leave it, again, not as private. I'll show you here that I can add some standards. So the tool comes with a free version with some Alberta standards and the Common Core standards. I attached to my class the Common Core 7th grade literacy and history, social studies, science, technical subjects. And then from within them, I'm just going to randomly pick a couple for speed. I can attach a couple of the standards and say done. So you see them attached here, and again you can hover over. I could add an attachment, but for sake of time we won't do that now. Then you see the 3 assessment options. The score is what you saw earlier, so I can just select a score. Checklist, you can add multiple items. Right? Or you can add a rubric, which as you can see has a little more complex level, and it's a 4-level rubric. Real quick, and create this activity. Now, instead of looking more closely at this one, which we just threw together, let's go back and open up that one that's a little more robust. Here again you see my title, my standards. You see that I have graded this quiz out of a total of 15. You have some features again to duplicate, share, delete. And then you see each of the students issued work. You can work with their individual activities. You can edit. You can move the activity to a different activity. You can delete, share again. You can scroll through the whole group, and you can interact with each of their activities individually like that. Again, you can see the standards, as can they. See over here that we have a student list, and we're going to get into students in a second. That allows you to focus on each student's activity from an assessment perspective. So there's a Create Snap button here, which would allow me to make a comment or attach a picture or a file again. I'm looking right now at C3PO's test, just a dummy test in here. But he got a 10, as you can see. I can slide the bar to change his assessment if I choose to. I can put in a little bit of piece of feedback for him individually. And I could potentially delete this and start over. Again, you can move through the class, assigning grades to each of them, and giving them their feedback in a nice, speedy manner. So that's an activity and how you attach assessments to it. So next, that was all under timeline. Let's look at students. Got a taste for them already. Here's my student list, quite a crew I have. Enrolling and inviting students comes in handy if you already have some classes set up, or if you're in a school version where you might have a central database of students. Inviting parents, I'll show you that first, allows you to attach to students that you've input an email, and you can send them this invitation, which can be customized so that they can stay apprised to what your students are doing. They stay apprised to the student they're directly attached to, of course. And I mentioned earlier that there's several sign-in options, and the one that's kind of cool for students is that you can create these VR codes for each individual student. It's really nice if you're using shared devices, especially iPads or iPhones, and also really nice for younger students who may not be skilled at logging into a computer or having to log into multiple tools. So you have to print these out, be a little careful about distributing them and storing them, but then each student can simply pick this up at the login screen and come in as themselves and go ahead and start logging their work. So that's the students. Moving on to reports. We have a standards coverage report. Looks like it's a really cool feature. Unfortunately, in my testing, I was not able, even though I attached standards to my activities and assessed against my activities, I was not able to get the tool to show me the planned and assessed color coding that I assumed would happen. And I actually saw and did some research on the web to try and resolve this problem, but was unable to, at least quickly, figure out why mine was not exhibiting the behavior I expected. Certainly would be a nice, robust functionality, especially if you move to the school version where you have the ability to customize and upload custom sets of standards. Let's move back to the reports and look at the gradebook export. So here you can see my 3 activities. I have with assessments attached to it, I have the dummy one I started with first, kind of poor data set in there. You can see in the one I created more formally, though, that I have a good data set. It talks about each student and how they did. We have that future coming test that we could look at more closely. And you can export to a spreadsheet. Finally, assessment details gives you a view of each assessment. So let's look at our good test. And we get a good classroom view of how each student did and the comments or feedback that were provided to those students. And you can switch within here to see a different one. This one, of course, has no data in it yet, but allows you some quick switching. Let's look one more time at students, because from an assessment perspective, you might want to go in and, of course, review a particular student's activity. Let's look at Leia here. So similar to the home page, you can look at her snaps, which are generic, and you can filter again by uncategorized or all, or you can look in the context of the activities, so you can get a sense for how she's doing over time by seeing how she scored, what type of comments were posted for her over time. This is the type of thing, obviously, a parent would be really interested in this view. Finally, there's some settings, and this is actually one of the initial screens you see as you set up your account for the first time, and it's really quite simple, and it kind of speaks to the simplicity of the tool, especially in this free version. So really easy ramp up capability. All I had to do was name my class, give it a color, just for identification purposes. We got my profile in here. Then there's the standards I was able to attach, so I could remove them, but I could add more. And you can do a search, so you can put something like science in, and you can see that there's a bunch of these Alberta standards and some Common Core ones that come up. So you can tack them in, and you can explore them and see how they align with the type of work you're doing. And then down here you can archive or delete a class. And that's it. So really quite simple to get started. Some basic profile information for both yourself and the class itself. And then, boom, you've got a class. You can jump in. You can start putting snaps to communicate to your students. And you can start adding activities that you'll be doing either throughout your course plan or coursework, and have the students weigh in with their work. And then you can reach right back out to them with an assessed version of their work and keep parents in the loop. Pretty cool tool, pretty simple, especially at the lowest level. And though I didn't get to review it, step by step, it looks like the additional features that come along at the higher levels would really, help this to be a really strong tool for an entire school or, district to work with. Thanks, and I hope you enjoyed.